Tonight, people across the state still living under the threat of severe winter weather. From ice and snow causing dangerous driving conditions to millions of homes still without power and stores either closed or out of supplies. Texans are waiting out the weather, hoping for warmer days and an end to this crippling winter storm. Hello, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm Leanne Wallace. Well, we are still in the middle of what's been a devastating winter storm with record-breaking low temperatures and anger and mass confusion over a lack of power. And with that, let's take a latest look at the forecast.
Well, thanks, Leanne. We are dealing with yet again another winter storm. This is actually our fifth one in a week when you count them all up, and it's going to start to move in from west to east across central Texas through the overnight period. So you guys up in North Texas, Fort Worth, I think you're out of this mess. I think this is mainly in Waco to Austin, San Antonio, and definitely the hill country getting the brunt of the snow. But here's the time frame for you. I think most of this activity will start after midnight, maybe even shortly after, pushing it to maybe 3, 4 a.m. and then changing over to some snow by tomorrow. You can see it's already starting to develop out just to our west, and as I zoom in, you can see over the last couple of radar scans near Alpine, everything's changing over to some snow and some heavy rain, not heavy, some moderate rain near Del Rio, but that could quickly change. Everything's pretty light right now, nothing super heavy, not like what we had last night in the Austin, San Antonio metros. But we have several advisories and winter storm warnings up in San Antonio, a winter storm warning that remains in effect until Thursday evening, and a winter weather advisory in the Austin area also until Thursday. Temperatures in DFW, we're at 26 degrees in both locations there, 27 in Lancaster right now, so very cold this overnight period. 28 in Waco, the airport in Austin, 29 degrees. See San Antonio right at freezing. In fact, San Antonio, you guys warmed up above freezing, so that was good news. Everywhere else, though, north of San Antonio, stayed below the 32-degree mark, and in South Texas, Corpus at 38 degrees, Harlingen 41. Now let's plan this out for you. This storm system really going to get its act together over the next couple of hours. You can see it spreads in the hill country with some freezing rain, some sleet, and then some snow starting to mix in around San Antonio. That continues through early morning hours. Again, this is the time most people would be getting up for work and school, but not tomorrow. Those roads are still very hazardous and treacherous, especially along I-10 tomorrow. We're not expecting anyone to be out on those roads, and please don't even try to get out there because we could see an additional 1 to 3 inches of snow, isolated amounts a little bit higher. Now, the snow potential can linger until midday, and then we should see things wrapping up pretty quickly Thursday afternoon, and then Friday looking dry across the area and definitely a little bit warmer. Future snow totals, you can see most of the activity Del Rio northward into the hill country with that dark circle that's maybe 3 to 4 inches, and in San Antonio 1 to 2, Austin I think less than 1. It may just be flying around, and this is not a ice event. That's going to be few and far between. I think again mainly snow is what we're going to be dealing with. Temperatures through the overnight period, again, very, very cold here across the region. But the good news is we're actually going to see a little bit of a warming trend. Let's go ahead and show you these 7-day forecasts real quick in Dallas. Look at this. We are going to see temperatures climbing into the 40s and 50s by this weekend, 60s next week. And then in Austin, 40s and 50s Friday, Saturday, 60s, and even close to 70 by next week. San Antonio, 37 on Thursday, but we're warming up nicely into the mid-50s on Saturday, 60s on Sunday, and some 70s next week. And Corpus, man, you guys are warming up a lot quicker than other locations across the state. We're expecting highs in the 60s and 70s on Saturday and Sunday. And really next week, no rain in sight, which is good news. We're going to stay pretty dry all the way through next week. Leanne?
All right, record cold temperatures continue to impact nearly every single person in Texas. Millions have been left in the dark without power as elected officials and utility providers point fingers and place blame. And it's been an especially dire situation for the 2.7 million Texas households who woke up again on Wednesday morning with no power. Texas is in crisis mode. Long lines at stores as people scramble to get supplies. Pipes bursting inside homes. Some people are struggling to find gas for their cars and also using them to stay warm.
It's been miserable because our power went out Saturday at 1 a.m. and we've had no power since. So we have to basically get in the car to warm up and charge our phone.
And for the people who are waiting it out inside their homes, it can be life or death.
With my medical condition, being cold makes my condition worse.
Warming centers have been set up across the state, this as hotels are at capacity and road conditions remain dangerous following another round of freezing rain. And those in power are shifting blame about why so many are still without.
You know, I don't want to guarantee people something that isn't realistic. But I think we're going to be making great progress.
ERCOT knew. I made an executive order early on about this coming, and they should have been preparing all along for backup power to make sure that no one in Dallas or anybody in the state of Texas was going to be going without power.
And a dire situation in Austin. Patients have been evacuated from St. David South Austin Medical Center. All right, so the hospital lost water pressure on Wednesday, which also knocked out the boiler and the heat there. So this video is, you know, from earlier in the year, much nicer conditions there. The hospital, though, currently has just under 300 patients and is working to transfer them to other hospitals. It's also working to get the city to get medically cleared patients back home safely. Hopefully they have power at home. All right, speaking of, the biggest question still is why? Why are so many Texans without power, and what's being done to prevent it from happening again? Our Stacey Reichert spoke with officials from the Electric Reliability Council of Texas.
ERCOT officials are staying steadfast in their decision earlier in the week to forego those rotating outages and stick to shedding load by reducing the demand on the state's power grid. They say the next best case scenario is that all consumers start experiencing actual outages that don't last more than 30 minutes to an hour at a time. Now, at the latest count, 185 units have tripped, with ERCOT saying about 40% of generation went offline. Now, keep in mind, 1 megawatt of electricity can power about 200 Texas homes during peak demand periods. So in total, about 46,000 megawatts have tripped offline, 28,000 of that being thermal, like coal and natural gas, and 18,000 is renewable energy sources. ERCOT would not specify which energy source was providing the biggest issue overall. Now, ERCOT is receiving limited reporting as to what exactly forced those generators offline, but overall, it's because of frozen instruments across all generator types. So what about winterizing? Why weren't decisions made prior to this week? Well, ERCOT says they aren't in charge of mandating those things, and they aren't mandatory. Of note, many power plants just don't invest in cold weather packages, and thermal generators in Texas aren't inside of a building like they are up north because outdoor facilities help to maximize output during peak summer demand. And the prime question, when will full service be restored? Well, the answer is still a timeline cannot be given, but ERCOT is optimistic even if power isn't fully restored, those rotating outages will provide relief.
If the weather moderates and the generation comes on, it could move a lot more quickly than it has been moving so far, obviously, because that's the key. And once that's done, it's just a matter of putting those customers back into service. Looking at the next couple of days, if those things break right and we get the generation online in the quantity we need to, we're optimistic we could move through this.
ERCOT says it's endeavored to provide transparency about what's been going on this whole time, but say if communication has been insufficient, they will take responsibility for that. Back to you.
All right, Stacey, thanks. Governor Abbott is facing criticism tonight as well for comments he made on Fox News last night, falsely attributing the power failures to renewable energy. Our Rena Diamante has more.
Texas energy grid operators acknowledge natural gas and coal-powered generators accounted for most of the statewide power outages, forcing millions of people to struggle to stay warm or boil water without power.
In different ways, the very cold weather and snow and those kind of things has impacted
every type of generator.
But on Fox News Tuesday night, Governor Abbott didn't mention all of the energy sources.
And they're not reliable, and it's use it or lose it. What good is it?
Sean, this shows how the Green New Deal would be a deadly deal for the United States of America. Texas is blessed with multiple sources of energy, such as natural gas and oil and nuclear. But you saw from what Trace said, and that is our wind and our solar got shut down, and they were collectively more than 10% of our power grid.
However, just hours earlier, he told Spectrum News 1.
It's frozen in the pipeline. It's frozen at the rig. It's frozen at the transmission line. And so they are incapable, the natural gas providers are incapable of being able to come up with a gas that feeds into the generators.
The Texas governor joined state leaders in a news conference today where he announced directing natural gas providers to sell fuel to in-state power generators because recently they weren't. Local journalists pressed him on his shift in tone on a national scale.
I talked about the challenges to all of the power generation sources that we have in the state of Texas, including wind and solar, but also including coal, including natural gas, and including nuclear also. I was asked a question on one TV show about renewable, and I responded to that question.
But it's Texas's response to the weather crisis that has critics demanding answers from state leaders and plans to prevent it from happening again.
That was Ria Diamante reporting. All right, we've mentioned this week how El Paso was on a different electric grid than the rest of the state, meaning they escaped the outages affecting so many of us. But as our Luis Garcia shows us just across the border in Mexico, yeah, people there aren't so lucky.
El Paso is one of the few cities from Texas that has not been affected by these power outages. But on the other side of the border, here in Ciudad Juarez and the rest of the north of Mexico, things are much worse, like in the rest of Texas. Luis Muñoz has just recovered the electricity and the water supply after he woke up on Monday without either of them.
When I got to the company where I was working, there was nobody there, and the engineers called me, said that the work had to be suspended until further notice. And then I came back home, and then I found out there was no water, no electricity, and no gas.
At first, Luis thought it was normal because of the low temperatures, but later he discovered that the problem was much greater.
Monday, after coming back from work, I opened my cell phone, I go through social media, and I started looking at memes on Instagram about how it was all the northern states of Mexico. And then investigating a little bit further, I found out it was most of Midwest and US, a big area of the US.
Indeed, due to the winter storm, Texas suspended the supply of natural gas to power plants in Sinaloa, Sonora, Durango, Chihuahua, Saltillo, and Nuevo León, leaving 4.7 million Mexicans without power energy.
I know that the gas was cut to big companies and manufacturers to be able to keep demand and keep the supply for houses. So I'm trying to stay indoors, go out as less as possible, and now I'm forced to do home office because most companies are closed, and there's no approximate date to when this is going to be fixed.
Mexico has committed to importing natural gas from the United States for the next 35 years due to the gas pipelines infrastructure dating from the previous government.
If Mexico had better laws regarding renewable energies, some of this could have been prevented, because if it were cheaper to have our own solar panels, most people could afford it and there would be less power need. So this would have been slightly lower than what it was.
The Federal Electric Commission of Mexico reported that the electricity supply to the affected states has been restored to the 100%, but the lack of natural gas will continue for the next few days.
All right, find more stories from across Texas on our Spectrum News app. Read original reports from our digital journalists and watch us live wherever you go. Super handy, right? Especially if you don't have power right now, you can watch us for the latest information from your smartphone. You can find the Spectrum News app right now over in your app store. And hey, stick around for this. We're getting another check of the forecast to see when we might get out of this freeze, y'all. It's been a rough one, right? And later, a look at how Texans are pitching in to help out neighbors, right? Makes it a little less rough when you get some help. We'll be right back. More news after this quick break. Welcome back. Hopefully you are staying warm. Let's get right to the biggest story on pretty much everyone's mind here in Texas tonight. We're talking about the weather. Let's go inside.
Inside the Weather is brought to you by Thomas J. Henry.
Well, we're continuing to monitor yet again another winter storm that's moving across central Texas tonight and early in the morning. And that winter storm could bring some freezing rain, sleet, and even snow across parts of central Texas. So North Texas, I think you are out of the woods right now. Even South Texas, I don't think we'll see much of an impact. It's all here in the capital city and the Alamo City. Now, we've been getting lots of frozen pictures. This is from our very own meteorologist, Adrian Vaughn, of some ice-covered limbs, and it's been below freezing for most of central Texas and most of Texas since last week. In fact, the longest, 165 hours for Waco. That was last Wednesday. And Austin, we're next there with 123 hours below freezing in Austin since last Friday. If you want to talk stats or even send me pictures via social media, you can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and on Instagram at Wasson Weather. Our next storm system already approaching. You can see near Alpine some of that freezing rain, snow changeover, some rain near Del Rio. Again, that's going to head our direction over the next probably 6 or 7 hours. Now, temperatures right now, 26 degrees in Dallas, 28 in Waco. Same thing in Austin. We're right at freezing in San Antonio. You factor in the feel like temperatures, though, we are below 0 Wichita Falls right now, feeling like 2 below, feeling like 18 degrees in the Metroplex, and in Austin, 19 degrees, even Corpus. Now you guys are feeling like 28 degrees. Now this next winter storm, here's the time frame. I think most of the activity occurring after midnight, and maybe even the last couple of forecast models have pushed it to 2 and 3 a.m. as a start time. So we will see the sleet and freezing rain briefly and then quickly changing over to snow. We have winter storm warnings and winter weather advisories up for most of central Texas. A winter storm warning including Del Rio and San Antonio through Thursday evening. A winter weather advisory in the Austin area. Now here you go, by 2 o'clock, you can see that activity really starting to spread over the region and then becoming more widespread with heavy snow, possibly from Del Rio up to Junction. Some freezing rain still ongoing in San Antonio, changing over to snow mid-morning, and then we'll keep some snow around for Thursday afternoon. And then we begin to dry out on Friday. And look, I want to point this out. Friday afternoon, see those wind arrows coming out of the south, so that's going to help warm us up. Future snow possibility, we could see 1 to 2 inches in San Antonio, isolated amounts much higher out in the hill country and westward. So I-10 will be impassable tomorrow. Don't even try. Just stay off the roads and stay inside. Overnight tonight, temperatures in the teens and 20s up around Dallas, Waco. At some upper 20s in Austin, San Antonio, some 30s across South Texas. Afternoon highs on Thursday, just not warming up much. Below freezing Dallas, Waco. We may get above freezing in Austin, and then back into the 40s to 50 degrees across South Texas. We'll have more updates after this break.
Texans know what it's like to step in and help each other out during desperate times, whether it's hurricanes, tornadoes, or, you know, like the winter weather crisis we're in. Well, now we can find help from our next door neighbors. Across the state, businesses and organizations are also doing their part. Our Luby Zapata takes us to North Texas to see how some are helping out.
Here in Texas, while millions are without power, cold and hungry, those needing help are likely to find it by simply looking on social media. During this time of crisis, the Friendship State is delivering.
These we have rice and we have vegetables, we have breads, so all the warm hot foods.
Finding food in North Texas has been hard this week. Empty restaurant parking lots have become a new normal as extreme weather conditions have closed businesses. But if you need a hot meal, the Islamic Center of Irving has you covered. Tuesday, they posted on Facebook they were offering food to those without power, and donations started rolling in.
People have been incredibly generous. It's amazing how much they brought, and we actually had to cancel some of the food because there was so much of a response.
But it's not just food they're offering. They've opened their doors, welcoming anyone in need of a warm place to spend the night.
Yesterday night, we have about 150 people that stayed, and then they wanted to go home, get fresh up, and we have more people coming from Arlington.
Muhammad, who's part of the center's operational team, gave me a tour of the mosque. This prayer space busy with kids taking refuge at the center.
Are you a horse or a tiger? What are you? A bull!
Muhammad's proud to join the many North Texas organizations and businesses giving back to their communities in this time of need, like Examen Cafe in Dallas's Bishop Arts District.
Out here at Examen Cafe, they're giving away free food, free hot chocolate. If y'all need help or know somebody needs help, come holler right here.
From free breakfast to free rides, the North Texas Jeep Club offering free transportation to and from work for first responders and healthcare workers. Imam Saeed Purcell tells me he's happy to see Texans responding to this crisis boldly. He moved to the Lone Star State from Minnesota 4 years ago and is still in awe of the way Texans help in times of need.
Most of the experiences I've had with people in Texas has been so genuine and so authentic and so real.
And Muhammad agrees.
So if we are together, believe me, nothing can mess with us. We can fight anything if we are together. That's why we have the slogan, don't mess with Texas.
As a leader in his community at the center, he has this message for anyone in need.
Anyone in the sound of my voice, if you need a safe place to stay, to lay your head, bathroom, warm food, chance to get a little bit of rest, come on down to the Islamic Center of Irving. We'd love to see you.
There's a shortage of food, no electricity, and now also a lack of gasoline is causing many headaches to Texans all across the state.